Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Ignite Your Life with Janet DiBenedetto. I'm so excited. I have a new guest on tonight, Melissa Gayle Searles, and she is a child trauma coach and a healer. So, welcome, Melissa.
Hello. So glad to be here.
Yes, did I introduce you correct?
That is, I help people with childhood trauma. So I
Oh,
do. I don't work with a lot of children. I have worked with children. It's not my forte. What I do work with is adults who have had childhood trauma that is creating the repeated patterns of behavior that we most disdain about ourselves.
gotcha. Okay, that's super interesting. So tell me, Melissa, how did you get involved? Like, what was your journey? Give me a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, childhood trauma was something that I went through myself. So I was always um, knew I had some sort of purpose inside of me that was meant to have a reason for all of these things. And I don't know, I know you have just kind of came into my world and started to watch a lot of the trainings that I do provide and help people with. But I was raped and sex trafficked from 2 to 25 on and off. And what I learned from that was it was not the traumatic events in my life that ruined my life. It was who I decided I was in those moments. And that became the lens that I created. And with that, I wrecked my own life for decade after decade after decade. And I don't care if you have trauma with a big T or a little t, we all have it. And understanding how our brain works and how we code this information helps people understand why we do the things that we do. Why we do the things that we do. A lot of people repeat a lot of the things. You see people get married a lot. I'm that one. But they all go into destructive relationships, go from job to job to job, and they cannot really find their way. They just continue to find themselves back at this place. Also normally really good at building themselves back up. But do we have to blow it up every time before we have to build it back up? There are other ways, and healing I have found has been the way. And whenever I found healing for myself, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life doing this. And I'm so grateful that that is what I've gotten to do up until now.
That's awesome. So you watched some destructive behaviors, is what you like? Did you
Yeah.
watch it for a period of time? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So by destructive behavior, ultimately, so what I told you was that who we decide we are in these traumatic events, that this is what creates the real trauma. Trauma is what's going on in here. The event is traumatic, meaning that something is going on inside of your body. And it really helps to understand how our brain works. Why does that happen? How do we create these belief systems that happen? So when we create a belief system, we have an outside influence coupled with a deep emotion. And inside that, we decide something about ourselves or the world. Take that into a real life example. Someone like me that had trauma. I don't care if it's from your dad left and abandoned you in some way, parental abandonment, or you did have some big T, rape or abuse, physical abuse or emotional abuse or neglect, something like that. You have an outside influence, the event. We have an internal emotion to it, and then we decide something. For myself, I decided I was unworthy. I decided that I was unlovable. I decided that the way to get love is through sex. Mm-hmm. Now, you put those types of lenses on an 8-year-old or 7-year-old, and let's face it, we have $1 billion industry, even without trauma, banking on you waking up every single day and not liking yourself so they can sell you a product or a service. Mm-hmm. We are all susceptible to this because this is just how the brain works. And so whether it's trauma or whether it's just programming from your own environmental programming, religious programming, spiritual programming, educational programming, if we're not willing to be brave and come and confront these things, and we're going to repeat it. we're going to repeat it. So myself with unlovable, I went and found relationships that proved I was unworthy, that proved I was unlovable, that proved all of these things. And it didn't matter if I left. I would just go find somebody else to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. So it's almost like, well, it's not almost like, I believe it is, where you find that belief, right? You end up with that belief, and then you're trying to prove yourself right.
Correct.
Correct? Like, so it's like you keep repeating the pattern because in your head you believe that to be true. And then it's like
Yeah.
you're so busy being right, proving it to be true.
It is, because
Am I-
in the unconscious mind, to be right means to be safe.
Mm,
Anything that would create change in the unconscious mind is not safe, right?
mhm,
So we are always trying to prove ourselves right, not to be right, to be safe, to be
mm.
safe. So
Never
when we
thought
see
about it that
someone,
way.
yeah. So when we see someone who is a know-it-all, someone who they're trying to be safe, because right equals safe. And we
Mm,
will fight for it. We'll fight to the death for it. And we do it from a subconscious place. 96% of everything we do is from the unconscious mind, meaning two things. One, we don't know how to do it, and which means we have no way to stop it.
mm,
The other 4% is our conscious brain, our critical factor, our thinking brain that we do our goals with. And so
mhm.
it's going one way, and the other 96% is going on the other way, just trying to keep us safe. And this is where self-sabotage comes into our life.
So the subconscious or the unconscious mind would always be the part of our mind that is keeping us safe. Is that always correct?
It is always going to keep us safe. We
Okay.
have plans that are going to keep us safe. But you think about it. You have all of the different plans. Let's say a fire. You can practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. And the reason why they have fire drills and things like that to practice, because they're trying to get it into your subconscious, because they know when the fire happens, you won't be thinking here. You're going to go here. So unless we've had these drilled into our head, same reason whenever you're making a habit, they say do it 21 times. It's not quite that simple, but it is still trying to affect this unconscious mind, because unconscious mind does need repetition for it to be ingrained and it to be a new neural pathway or new behavior that you have.
Mhm. Right. So it could also, the subconscious could also go to make you write about, like, maybe like an obsessive thing too. Could it be where you ever see people who are like, constantly at the gym, or is
Yeah.
that like a program thing? Is that a subconscious
So
thing?
usually, if somebody has some sort of addiction, and we have addictions in all different ways, they're all just meeting a core need. You find someone who is going to the gym because they absolutely love themselves. Maybe they had cancer. Every single day is a gift to them,
Mhm.
and they're going to the gym to take care of themselves, is completely different than the person who's going to the gym every single day so they look good enough so that somebody will love them or like them, and they're doing it for acceptance.
Yeah.
It's not what we do, it's who we are when we do it that matters. Who we are when we do it. When we're doing it, it is what is the place that it's coming from, because that is what we will get more of.
Mm.
If we're coming from this place of lack and nobody loves me, and so I've got to look perfect, we're going to draw and attract more of that. If we're coming from a place of fully accepting ourselves, loving ourselves for who we are, and then coming from taking care of our body, even on a cellular level, we'll be making better cells. And I think it's really important for the viewers to understand too how we process information. Because if we don't understand, we've kind of touched on the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, and 96% coming from the unconscious mind. But to understand how we take on information, even right now, the viewers that are listening to us, even you listening to me and me listening to you, we have to just understand how our brain works. It's never, even when we understand it, it's not going to stop, right? It's always going to work this way. We take on this information and we think we take it on, we think about it, and with our critical factor, with our frontal lobe, and we file it away into the unconscious mind to be called a memory for later. We'll pull it up when we need it if we want to. Maybe we'll forget about it. We don't even know. What
Mhm.
actually happens is we take on this information with our eyes. It bypasses the frontal lobe, it bypasses the thinking brain, and it goes straight to the unconscious mind and gets filtered through something called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And what this is, what you can think of it as like a filing system for your brain. And it's definitely starts with the filtration, and it filters through all of the programming I was talking about, right? Our parental programming, our educational programming, our societal programming, our environmental programming, educational, religious. It goes through all of the events in our life. It goes through all of our emotions that we have, all of our beliefs. And then we delete, generalize, or distort that information to match what's programmed here. And this is how we repeat it. Then we
Hmm.
take that distorted image to the frontal lobe if it didn't get deleted, and we call that new image the truth.
Hmm.
And that's why two people can experience the same thing and have a completely different outcome to it. Right.
Right.
So, if we delete the information, this is how you can look for your sunglasses and they're on your head. Right. And we'll be looking for it because when we put it on our head, the brain, we take on 6 million pieces of information every single second. Our brain has to get really good at this. It's taking care of all the autonomous processes in our body. So when we put the sunglasses on our head, we are inside the house. Our brain says it is not sunny. We do not need this information. We immediately just go and delete it. And
Hmm.
now when we need to retrieve the information, it's not even there to be retrieved at all.
Hmm.
So what would happen to me, having a belief system of unlovable and unworthy, when a man would come into me and treat me with dignity, respect, love, kindness, I would delete or distort that information to
Mhm.
match my own belief system, which is I'm unlovable. And most of the time, it wouldn't even make it to my conscious mind to say that the person is there giving me some attention. And this is how
Mm.
I would marry the same man over and over again with a different face.
Mm.
And
Wow.
everyone is doing this. Everyone is doing in our own world, in our own way. Every single one of us is doing this.
And wow, I find that so fascinating that it works that way because I never heard it explained like that.
Yeah.
So, like for me, I guess the question would be to you is how do you unmap it or how do you shift it or like what do you like how do you heal the trauma or heal the
Yeah.
belief, right? How do you
Yeah.
do that?
Well, it starts with understanding how a belief system is made. So we touched on in the beginning what makes a belief system: the outside influence, person, place, thing, event,
Mhm.
something happened. We had a deep emotion to it. And then we created the belief system. So
Hmm.
where a lot of people get it wrong is they go in and just work on the belief system. And the failure in that, it will work. Like you can go to someone that knows NLP or hypnotherapy, or just work on a specific belief system that you have, repetition, um, affirmations, all of
Mhm.
these different things. The problem with all of that is that it will work, and the brain will do what the brain does, which is take that new information now, and it will get a picture. You'll go say, I'm going to work with a worthiness coach because I'm unworthy. Let's say you were, and I'd
Mhm.
be like, Janet, help me, help me. And you would do all your magic things on me, and it's going to work. And I'm going to feel so good. I'm like, oh my gosh, Janet, I am so worthy. And then that new information gets into the bullshit meter, on the reticular, through the reticular activating system. And it starts to filter this new information that it has that you're worthy. And then it's like, BS, Janet, or BS, Melissa. No, you're
Mhm.
not. And it pulls up every single memory that I have of myself of why I've decided that I am unworthy. And it moves that information right back over to the other gestalt and says, nope, still not worthy. So will
Mhm.
it work? Yes. What we have to do is get to the root. So if we want to be able to have long lasting change on the outside, since having that belief system had me marry someone in the material world, like not in my brain, like I actually went and did this in the real live world, but based off things that are in my head, we have to go in and heal those versions of ourselves that got hurt. And a lot of people do inner child work, and everyone should. But you know, my people will find their inner child and they're like an 8-year-old girl. That's great. I'm sorry, but my 19-year-old inner version of myself that was pregnant and in an abusive relationship needed something very different than my 8-year-old, very
Mhm.
different than, my 2-year-old who was being sexually abused.
Mhm.
And so one of these things takes a real rigorous honesty with yourself. Like you get to say, hey, I don't want to be like this anymore. I'm willing to look at what is going on inside of me to have this outside experience. And that takes a bravery that honestly most people won't do. They want it. We want it. But when it starts to, one of my business partners, actually, she's on here right now, Hannah. She had posted this morning about we can only grow in our own selves to our ability to be honest with ourselves, and to that level, not in our level, to not run from it,
Mhm.
because it is ugly. And sometimes our behavior is ugly. And, all of the things, but it is so worth it. Yes, Kathleen. Kathleen's one of my clients. She's on here as well. And
Mm. That's awesome.
what a warrior this woman is too. She has a story very, very similar to mine. And it
Mhm.
just goes to show it doesn't matter. I don't care if you've been sex trafficked for decades like me and Kathleen, you 100% can heal. Hear me, I have chill bumps. You can heal. And in fact, every single person who is live here, I'm going to drop a link in here to a 90-minute free workshop for anybody that does want
Mhm.
to just learn how your brain works, understand, so you can give yourself some grace, so you can give yourself some hope, so you can understand why it is that you do drop the shame and the guilt for whatever your life has looked like up until now.
Mhm.
And from a place of loving yourself and without judgment, start to ask yourself why. Start to
Yeah.
ask yourself why. And I go into my group every single week, Tuesdays at 2, for that reason, just to come in and teach, because everyone deserves to heal, whether you can afford it or not. But eventually you'll get so sick and tired of being sick and tired, like you'll do anything to heal. And sometimes we have to lose everything before we heal. And that's what had to happen for me. But thank God I did.
Yeah. Because, at some point you just know that you don't want to feel that way anymore and you don't, right? And you just it's like freeing to be able to release all that, the guilt and the shame.
Yeah. And, that's another thing. Like people don't know how to process their emotions or understand how we even store emotions. And we store them in the reticular activating system, actually, and then our gestalts, which it's actually where emotional baggage came from. So we don't want someone with emotional baggage, because the bags fill up, and when the bags fill up, they overflow. And one of two things is going to happen. One, you're definitely going to revert back to the age you were the first time you ever experienced that emotion. Road
Mm.
rage is a perfect example of this, right?
Oh.
And you're going to go
Huh.
back to that age, or it's going to spill out into the top emotion. So anger will spill out into rage, sadness will spill out into depression. You're not depressed, you are experiencing depression, because this is how the brain works. When you understand and you learn how to process your emotions, you're not going to be into the ineffective emotion of depression.
Mm.
Fear is its own gestalt. When it spills out, it's going to spill out into an anxiety attack. You don't suffer from an anxiety disorder. You have a brain. We all have a brain, and yours isn't broken. We just don't know how to use it, and no one's teaching us.
Yeah. I actually interesting that you say that because I just saw a meme today and I think I saved it. It was similar to what you just said. I want to find it because it was really okay. It was hold on, I'm not trying to text it to somebody. It was good because it said, okay, in Irish, when you talk about emotion, you don't say I am sad. You'd say sadness is on me. So
Mm.
you don't, and it says, I love that because there's an implication of not identifying yourself with the emotion fully. I just saw this today and I was like, this is great. It said, I am not sad. It's just that sadness is on me for a while. Something else will be on me another time. And that's a good thing to recognize.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it.
Isn't
It just
that
reminds
cool?
me of, emotions. They are not who we are. It's what we do. It's like breathing. We are not the breath. It's just something we do. Emotions come in and they come out. Air comes in and air comes out. We don't identify with our breath. Why? I don't say I am breath, but we do say I am sad. We do say I am whatever. And those are the two most powerful words. What comes out after that
Yeah.
is depicting everything else that we experience. It becomes the lens that we wear, and it's what we see everywhere. And then we say everyone's miserable. Everyone is not miserable. They're not, actually. Start to heal your own lenses, and all of a sudden you see something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Because it's always a projection.
Yeah.
What you see is a projection. Something I'd learned years ago was like when you're projecting your pain onto somebody else, it's because it's not about them. It's the pain that's on you that you kind of want to get it off. So you just throw it at somebody else, because when you throw it at somebody else, you think it doesn't hurt so bad.
Yeah.
But it actually feels worse after.
You do feel worse after. And that's where, keeps you in the shame spiral. But even deeper than that, we see them and us. We can't stand ourselves. Most of us. When we get down with our things, we are shaming ourselves, just like you were saying. It's doing things like that over and over again, and us shaming ourselves and not knowing how to stop it creates this hopelessness and anger inside of ourselves. And then when somebody else does it, it triggers the way that we feel about ourselves, and we lash out at the people that we love the most. And we do the same thing with, that is a perfect representation of a gestalt being full, and we are going to go back to that age, high emotion, low IQ. We're not going to be able to come from the place of highest good from ecology, where it's good for me, good for you, good for the whole world. And we're going to come up with a solution like that. It's never going to come from this ineffective space of anxiety, depression, rage, shame spiral.
Yeah.
It's never going to come there. And unless we're going to be responsible for the faculties that God has given us, all of them happen to be headed up by our brains. So it would be a real good idea for us to start there. If we're not, going to be responsible for understanding how our emotions work and on purpose, processing our emotions on purpose before it happens. So most of us deal with our emotions in a reactionary way. Right? Something happens, we are completely dependent on our environment for what our emotions are. And so something happens, our emotion rises up, and then we have a reaction. I did a great live 2 weeks ago on the difference between emotions and feelings. Feelings are for us. Feelings are there to create actions. But whenever the feelings that we have, there's the bodily reaction, which is the emotion. And so what we want to do is to feel our feelings readily, because you will have an opportunity to feel them before you react to them. If your gestalts are low down here, but if they're up here, you've got a split second before it's done. And then you've already done the damage because the words have already came out of your mouth, or whatever your little baby goddess inside of you does whenever its feelings are hurt. And it's, why did you do this to me? It's going to freak. And however it does. And this is where we have that fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn type response. And again, goes back to safety. Everything in that unconscious mind, that 96%, everything is to keep you safe and to procreate. Keep you alive and procreate. It is the animalistic part of our brain. When you add in the feelings to that, which the other animals, they do have feelings as well, but the way that a human being responds to those feelings creates our behaviors and makes things very, very, very difficult if you don't know how to process them and you don't understand them, right? Because what we want to do is work on the behavior modification. Modify the behavior. Just stop doing that, or just start doing this. Just go work out, or just don't call him, or whatever your thing is that you're trying to get yourself to do or not to do.
Mhm.
What we're talking about is looking at why you're doing it in the first place. Why do you want to? Like, what need are you trying to meet?
Hmm.
You know, when we can come into our relationships, I don't care if it's romantically or with our children or anything, from a place of being whole already. What we normally do is look for people to fill our holes, and everything gets messy there. You know, everything gets messy from a place of I need you. Everything gets messy from a place of need me, want me, see me because I can't, and love me because I can't, need, want, and love myself. So you do it. And if you don't do it, it's just going to prove all my belief systems true. And then I can say, I told you so. And then I can be right, and I can be safe, and I can be miserable.
Isn't it crazy? Like, when I'm listening to you say this, and I'm like, it really is insane behavior when you think about it like that, where you know that if you don't feel that you could love yourself,
Yeah.
because how could somebody else love you, or how can you love somebody else if you don't love yourself?
Yeah. And we say that we do, you know, and, you know, I've had this conversation with people about their kids, because you can really only love to the extent that you can love yourself. And they're like, no, I love my kids so much, so much. And I said the same thing. No, I was codependent. I needed my kids so much. In fact, I people like, I'd die without your kids. Yeah, because you can't live without them. That is not love. If you put people in a position to need you all of the time, you're never chosen. You just put people in a prison. That's what codependency is. You just do stuff for people. And we say we've got the kindest heart. Well, yeah, you do. But again, it's not what you do. It's who you are when you do it. And you are doing all of those things because you do not feel valuable in yourself. And if you weren't doing all those things, they could leave you, and then you'd be abandoned again. So you spend all of your money on somebody, or you go and do X, Y, and Z. One, you get to wear this badge of honor, like, and you're the savior, and you feel good about yourself, and you feel all worthy. You get to save somebody because you don't know how to save yourself. And it's not love. It's not.
That is, I've never heard it said that way.
And it stings, especially for the all the self-proclaimed empaths out there. And I get it. I was one too. No, I was trauma bonding with people, and I was out there trying to save everybody because I didn't know how to save myself. And I'd already given up on myself a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
And
if I
it's
could save
it's
you,
interesting that you're saying that too, because like empathetic and sympathetic, right? Like if you're joining with,
yeah,
what do you do? Like, why are you trying to suffer with somebody else?
yeah, yeah.
What does it do? Right?
And when you even look up the definition of what an empath is, an empath means that you can understand somebody else's emotion. And let's get real, we don't even understand our own, most of us. So you're going to tell me that you understand? So that means not only do you feel it, but you could also interpret it and help them understand what those feelings are for them, not you, for them. Very, you know, I'm not saying that the gift isn't out there. And in fact, it even says mostly in sci-fi movies. I think the word empath came out, off of Star Trek, actually, the original.
Really?
Yeah. And yeah, back in like the 60s. I wrote a post on it a while back, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And because we're programmed, it was just, you know, we hear it, we see it, it becomes normal, it's repetitive, and then it is just what people think that it is that they can do. No, we all have empathic abilities. We all have the ability to sit with someone and open up, you know. But what most of us are just hyper vigilant and hyper aware of our situations, because we have been in situations that have been not safe, and then we continued our life with that lens. So we have to be hyper alert. We have to be aware of other people's emotions, because people could go off at any second. You know, our nervous system is wired for this, not because it's a gift. What gift have you ever gotten that was a curse? That wouldn't be a gift. And I don't know very many empaths that are going around. They're not like having a great time. No, they're like, it's a lot, or, or they isolate themselves. If not, or they go out and fix people all the time, or try and get their own validation because they're not empaths, and they've got their own belief systems and it does hurt. I've had people get really, really upset with me on it. And it's like, I'm only saying it because I've also said it to myself, and you know what? Those abilities that I thought I had, I can sit with someone, but I am very presently aware when I start taking on someone else's emotions, and it is me doing it. It's not like my gift has arrived in me. I'm like, oh, I feel the gift coming. I'm like, no, cutting cords real quick, putting up, a little energy block because I want to be here for you. And I can't be here for you and with you if I am just absorbing what it is. And now we're just both choked out by the shame you are feeling. How does that help anything? And then, all of a sudden you're telling me about the shame that you have, and it triggers all the shame that I have. And now I'm sitting in my trigger and I'm freaking out and you're freaking. It literally helps nobody, but you feel heard and you feel like a little bit validated, like you helped someone, and it gives you the little bit of dopamine hit that feeds your brain that tells you, oh, this felt good. I should go and help somebody else again. I should go feel other people's emotions again, because then we can have a deep conversation. And you do, but it doesn't help long term. It does not get to the root. It does not get to a place where it's going to change your outside behavior. Most of us are very, very aware of our problems whenever we get honest with ourselves and don't run from it. We just stop admitting it to ourselves because we don't know what to do about it. And that is a miserable place.
Wow.
I mean, without hope, the people perish. I mean, we have to have hope. And when you are sitting in a situation that feels so like, where do I even go? What do I even do? And you don't have any trust within yourself to even make a move, it is hard. It is hard. I remember there was a time, just going and getting sunlight outside, like brushing my teeth was difficult, like doing anything was difficult. And nobody gets to judge where you're at, but you do get to start standing up and showing up. And when you show up for life, life will show up for you in a way that you could never even have imagined. Never even could have planned with this mind up here. Like all your goals and your dreams and your thing could not even comprehend what you can actually do when you reprogram this, because it's exhausting trying to work with 4% of your ability and the other 96% wrecking every single thing that you do. The relationship. Had a client that was or a prospect that had came on a call who was going to be getting into the program. And a lot of people, because they just don't love themselves enough, they'll do it for someone else. They'll do it for their kid. They'll do it for like their partner. They don't want to, they're like, I don't want to mess this one up like I've messed up every other one. And I'll be, in the beginning, I'm like, that will work for you. That will. But the work that I'm asking you to do, which is to ultimately, you're going to face yourself in all the different areas of your life. Eventually, you're going to get to do that for you, but along the way, you're going to learn yourself, because you are going to know yourself in a way that you never have. Right. Yeah. When you start facing yourself in the different ages of yourself, things that you didn't even remember that you remembered start to come up, and life starts making sense. And that is hope. That feels good. Getting to the root of what a belief system is. And, what I would say, like this program, when we go through these healing tools, you notice it in hindsight. You're like, I was literally different there. Like, oh my gosh, did I just apologize to that person? Like, oh my God, oh my God, like, I'm not even there right now. Like, what's going on? I don't even know this. Your response is different. And so I tell people, every single relationship, when you get your healing, I'm talking about real healing, like healing that allows it to go fully through the reticular activating system and start to connect new neural pathways, that type of healing. Every relationship that you have will change. And you know why? Because you are different. And everyone is responding to you. We think the world doesn't revolve, everyone tells you the world doesn't revolve around you, but your world does. Your world does, and everything you are touching is responding to you.
Yep.
And when you change, your whole world changes. Everything changes. Most people will come
Because
to me.
people read your energy, right? They
Yeah,
can they can feel when you're different.
yeah. I mean, we always know when someone comes in and is doing the work and who isn't doing the work, because you can't fake it. You cannot fake it.
Mhm.
You wouldn't have the insights that you would have. I mean, I'm a firm believer in coaching as well. At mentorship, I think is really, really great. But
Mhm.
I think mentorship is even greater, more effective whenever you know yourself first. Because if you don't know yourself first, you're just paying money to be someone else. I want what they have. I want what they have. I want what they have because I hate what I have.
Mm.
And that's not a great way to spend money, not a great way to get advice. And no matter what, even if you got it, that life wasn't meant for you. But
Mm.
your life is meant for you and it's meant for you to live. And only you will know. You'll get to that place and you'll even get successful and you won't be satisfied and you'll wonder why.
Mm.
And it's because we're constantly living by someone else's playbook because we don't know ourselves enough to
Mm.
be able to play by our own rules, to know what it is that actually what success really is to us, so that whenever we achieve it, we can know we're there. Some people's success is being a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't look the same for everybody, right?
no, no. But if that stay-at-home mom who was meant to do that, and you do, and you create that, and you're miserable.
Oh, we lost you, Alyssa. I think you're breaking up a bit. You it's just getting good too. Can you come back, Melissa? Maybe she lost service. Oh, well, that was fascinating. I love everything she's saying because, we think that we don't realize that we can think a certain way, and then, unless you heal the subconscious thoughts around your feelings and your beliefs, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. So, oh gosh, I hope she can get back. It was just getting juicy. Let me text her really quick and see if she's going to be able to get back in. Oh, she's jumping back on. Okay. Anyway, so I want to talk a little bit about that because healing from the subconscious and the mind is a little bit different than coaching, because what I do is more. Oh, here she's coming. Is here jumping back in. No, I guess not. Oh, I know the weather's been a little bit bad, so maybe our internet's a little spotty, but oh, there she is.
Hi, it has been. We have got a massive windstorm here. I was
Okay.
just saying, even my regular cell phone service has been going out. So I apologize about that. I did
No
tell you
worries.
the quickening is
It's
real
been
and fierce around here.
Didn't we talk
Um,
about that though? We were saying that usually when you're getting somewhere, the internet or
yeah,
something
so
tries to
something
sneak
that
in.
ends up happening. But I love the quickening for the people that don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
When you go
explain
up
that.
level in your life, I don't know exactly where we were at, but a good conversation to have. The
Mhm.
quickening is where you're about to up level in your life. You're right at this peak moment of doing something big, sharing something that's going to change lives. It could be a million different things. Butterflies happen, nerves happen. You're going to do something good. You're excited. And then it looks like the world is against you. Like internet goes out, kids start freaking out, you lose your job. Whatever it is, something crazy goes in and happens. And people will say, Melissa, it's like the world is against me. Every single time I try and go do something, I have been trying. Don't tell me I haven't been trying. I go and try, and then boom, this happens and that happens.
Mm.
Mhm. I know. And these were like our tests from the universe. Because what happens, I'll give you a real world example. So I was about to do this speaking tour. This was back in 2018. And I had partnered with this radio host, and I had just gotten out of a narcissistic relationship, my third marriage. Like, it was just ridiculous. The patterns, I'm the queen of patterns because I've studied my own. And I was like, no one is ever going to yell at me again. No one, like, ever. I'm not ever dealing with this again. And so I said it. That's it, right? And that's what we want it to be, right? Like, I said it. I've made a decision. That's it. But if we only have that far, like, it's just something that we say. And one of the business partners I had, who was from France, and respect in women, I don't know, but at least with this guy, was non-existent. And he yelled at me, and I left the organization. I was like, there's not enough money, and I'm not going to go out here and speak to women empowerment and what it is that we do and take this type of abuse. And then I'm not, no one's ever going to yell at me. Like, it's a lived experience in my body. Every single cell of my body stood in agreement and said no. Not a thought, not an idea, because we know in the unconscious mind, it has all of the times I have let someone. So I go and say that, and it gets filtered through, and it's like, oh, bullshit, no, BS. We know you're not going to do that. We have all of the proof. And here I have lived experience. And while that didn't go heal all those versions of myself that needed healing every single time that I had been verbally abused, which did need to go and get healing, it allowed me to stand up in my own power, take my own power back, have real life experience of going through the turmoil. I mean, no different than like the butterfly, cracking its cocoon. It really, it has a lived experience. It's not saying it's going to be a butterfly. It actually is. And there is a breaking open, but there is also a transformation that happens when we stand up and live through the hardship. Hardship is coming. And guess what? You're going to do all of this healing work. You're going to heal. You're going to do things. And what people want is like, then they don't have to feel bad feelings anymore. And we don't heal so we don't have to feel anymore. We heal so that we can feel and it not overcome our body. Anger doesn't turn into rage. Sadness doesn't turn into depression. In fact, when you get to a relationship like that with your feelings, you can use them for what they're there for, which is to actually communicate with you. And, anger is there to cause you to act, to do something. Guilt is there to remind you to go apologize to your daughter. Like, sadness is there to help you grieve and to mourn and to tell you, hey, you're going through something. Take care of yourself. Go slower, slow down. I love you. You deserve this. Whatever it is. Fear is there to support you. We need it. It keeps us safe. It is
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but would you say that feelings, so I want to really understand this, feelings are obviously for a purpose, right?
For sure.
But do we not want them to go into emotion, or does emotion still serve a purpose? And how would you?
Yeah, our emotions are just the bodily response to it. So we want to feel it so we can communicate with it. But we want to get out of the reaction to it as much as possible, the bodily reaction. So what's going to happen, and it's not, but there are, so let's take fear, for example. What happens whenever you get fear? All of a sudden, your body's going to go into the fight or flight. Your digestion we're going to shut off all of your digestion. We're going to shut off your complete frontal lobe for you to be able to think. We're going to rush blood down to your legs and to your arms in case you need to run or you need to fight. And we're going to shut down the frontal lobe so we can act 100% on instinct. Okay. Now, the problem is that we don't actually always need this, because the unconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real threat and in the movies. So people can get addicted to movies because our body feels the same. Our body feels the same as what these things are going through. This is why we can watch movies over and over and over again. Watch the same movie over and over again, because it is actually giving, our body is doing something. When we get into a new relationship, let's use this example. We get into a new relationship and you get all of those butterflies and you're feeling it in your stomach and you're just like, and oxytocin, the love hormone, the cuddle hormone, starts coursing through your body. Testosterone starts coursing through the man. You are not in love. You are in a chemical reaction. This is not love. And this is why in about 6 months, the oxytocin starts wearing off. Why? We actually as women, create oxytocin by getting dressed up, by pampering ourselves, by primping for whatever romantic thing that we're doing. We do that. And as the relationship goes, we kind of settle into what we are. We stop doing that. We start losing the oxytocin, which is what we have identified as love. And then we think we're falling out of love with the person, when really we were never even in love with the person. We were in a chemical relationship with them. Our oxytocin and their testosterone were having a field day, not love.
Never heard it that way.
Yeah.
I never heard that. That makes so much sense, though.
Yeah. And then we repeat it because we're chasing the chemical. So learn how your brain works so you can give yourself the chemicals that you need naturally.
Because I remember years ago, my doctor gave me oxytocin.
Oh my God.
Years ago, gave me crazy, right? It's like, instead of teaching me how to create it myself, she gave me like a, manufacturer.
And that's what the medical system does, right? Go to the root, right? You want to produce oxytocin, I'll tell you what you can do. Go hug your dog. So the reason why we need hugs, and one of my colleagues was doing a training in our group last night, and we were talking about what you need just to maintain 4 hugs. And a hug means heart to heart for 20 seconds. You will start releasing oxytocin within about 20 seconds. Staring into my eyes and having a real connection with me for more than 20 seconds, you would start to emit oxytocin. Cuddling with your dog, you can do anything, but you're going to have connection is what creates oxytocin. And it's also what will get rid of cortisol. So when we're in a stress loop, so we're saying, what's actually happening in emotions. So we get it, we have stress in the brain, the amygdala fires off. We go into this fight or flight. It sends out cortisol, the stress hormone. You got belly fat around. For women that are there, it's cortisol. It is stress. It does cortisol. And then epinephrine and norepinephrine, which will cancel out the adrenaline or the epinephrine. Now, what nothing can cure and get rid of the cortisol, the only thing is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, right? All of the feel-good hormones, all of ones that we do not practice creating. So our brain is not good at making it anymore because we do not do it. None of us have near enough connection that we need in our life to be able to do that. So while we have the adrenaline and noradrenaline that is canceling that out, we have nothing canceling out the cortisol. And so when cortisol rises in our body, it stresses the body out and then puts it back into fight or flight and then makes more cortisol. And so we stay in this stress loop. So this is an emotional reaction. And why I said it's not that we don't want to stay out of the emotion, because we do. Emotion and connection gives us oxytocin, things that we do want. But if we don't know what's happening in our brain, it is no different than addiction, and we're just running for cortisol. It's also why people are drug addicts, because drugs and alcohol, they are pseudo serotonin, oxytocin, and will help get rid of the stress that people are feeling. So it fakes it, and then also weakens the body's ability to make it for real.
So it stops your body from producing it itself after a while. Like, because I remember years ago, like I was going to the gym and these guys, like it was big when guys were taking creatine. And I remember hearing that it wasn't good for them to take creatine because then your body, it's like your body
You're going to get dependent on it.
Dependent, and your body says, "Oh, I don't need to do anything anymore," and it stops working and it stops, producing creatine. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing with
It
all
is.
that
It
as
is the
well.
exact same thing.
Okay.
Anything that we use as a crutch. I mean, just think about it. If you used a crutch for your right leg for 2
Mhm.
years and didn't use your leg, it's going to get weak, and you're not going to be able to use it like you
Yeah.
would your left leg that was
Right.
continuing to walk over and over and over again.
It's and so what's fascinating too about that is, so my one daughter has a lazy eye, so the doctor said. So one of her eyes, I almost think she could almost be blind in that eye.
Yeah.
And she doesn't even know it because the other eye compensates so much
Yeah.
for the other eye. And so it's probably like a very similar
Yeah.
reaction or thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also lets you know that left leg would get stronger. That other eye got stronger. It's our brains are amazing.
So
And
smart.
so, I mean, look at all of it's doing without your help or even understanding how it works. Imagine what you could do if you could put some intention in the way that you
Mhm.
use your brain so that every other process that your brain is doing down to making your cells could
Mhm.
be healthier and do better. I see Steve asked a question on here.
Did he?
What advice would you give women who are trying to leave an unhealthy relationship? Heal yourself. Some people are in such unhealthy relationships, it's not even safe to leave. Heal yourself, and then you can get yourself out safely. If you're just in an unhealthy relationship, ask yourself why. Start there. It is not the other person. It's not. It really isn't. I mean, yes, they're doing a bunch of different things, but guess what? They're just being them, and you are being you. Why are you being you? Why are you doing that to yourself? Is it self-loathing? Is it because you don't feel like you're worthy? Have you convinced yourself you're not lovable? You can convince yourself you're going to be alone. Have they helped you convince that and can, help those belief systems along? But at the end of the day, you're going to live what's inside here. And what's inside here is what created outside. And if it created that relationship, leaving is not going to fix your problem. You will find another person with a different face to do the exact same thing to you. And you'll go, what's wrong with them or what's wrong with me? And the answer to that on both is nothing. You're both just trying to meet needs, to be safe, and to be loved. And everyone deserves both of those, and nobody knows how to attain them. And most of our belief systems that we learned how to get that, we learned by the time we were 7 years old. And if we haven't addressed that, we're still trying to get love like that. We're still trying to get safety like a 7-year-old. And that's got to stop. That part's got to stop.
Yeah. So is that technically the age, Melissa? Where is there like an age or a time?
95% of all of your belief systems are fully formed by the time that you're 7 or, before you hit 8 years old. Yeah. And so, and everything else is either reinforcing or rewiring that belief system. Usually until you're on purpose with intention trying to rewire that, you're left to the media to rewire it. And what they may rewire it, but not with anything that is going to support you in being independent, whole, loving yourself, and happy, because they can't sell you very much stuff when you are those things. Turns out.
Yeah. It's true. And we all do it. We all fall prey to it. And now, especially that social media or um, Alexa's listening to you. And,
Yeah.
I searched something the other day or I said something the other day. And all of a sudden, I got all these emails with all these things that I just said out loud. I'm like,
yeah, it's
crazy.
terrible. I mean, as soon as you do, it's you're going to get an ad for it. But I mean, I know this is going to sound really, really horrible, but anytime I want something, I literally do. I just say it out loud to my phone so an ad can pop up and I don't have to look for it. That is how lazy the internet has made me. It's not okay. So I'm like, swimming pool.
Makes you a little lazier, right?
I'm like, an ad will come within 24 hours. I'm good. We'll figure it out when it comes up on Facebook. I'll click on it.
Exactly. Oh my God. Melissa, this was great. So enlightening.
fun.
You taught me
Yeah.
a lot today, just in this
Right.
short period of time. I
I
love
am
it. Do
so
you see any other
excited.
questions? Because I'm not seeing questions.
I can't see. I see a bunch of my clients on here though. Thank y'all all for
That's
showing up.
awesome.
Love you guys. I was
Awesome.
gonna put in. I don't know if I can put a comment in or not. I was gonna. If not, I'll do it afterward. But I did promise I would put in a 90-minute training on everything that I've been talking about, where we go into it much deeper. A free training just for y'all's listeners or anybody, any of mine that showed up. And yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll put that in there and people can go in there
That'd be
and
great.
take a look at that. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. I will check back here and I'd be happy to answer any of the questions that
I
y'all have.
love it. Melissa, this was wonderful. This was
Great.
wonderful.
I'm so glad. Thank you
Thank-
so much. Thank you
I
so much. And it's
appreciate
nice to
you.
meet you. Yes,
I
for sure.
appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, that's her team. So cool. I just found that fascinating. So many different, those little tidbits, little things that you learn about, healing yourself and um, the repetitive patterns. So, thank you so much, everybody, for being on tonight. Thank you for supporting Melissa, supporting me. And I hope you have a wonderful night and a wonderful week and weekend. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Good night.